ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is Collin. Super fun guy. He is a lead educator in medical marijuana in
Correct.
Utah. He's actually very spiritual and knows a lot about vibrations and energy and botany and how if you think of positive thoughts, positive things happen. Not only to plants, just in your life, right?
I believe so. That's what I've recognized throughout the years, I suppose.
Yeah, me too, dude. I'm reading a lot of books on it, so it's super interesting to me.
Yeah.
One thing about medical marijuana that I don't understand is the time dilation.
That's an interesting one. Yeah, it can be really scary for people.
Because I've done it a couple times, and I feel like I'm stuck on stupid. That's me personally, because maybe it wasn't the right thing for me.
Yes, that's essentially an overabundance of THC in your receptor system. So it's just your ECS, your endocannabinoid system, doesn't know what to do with that overabundance of THC, and basically puts you in a state of fight or flight, where it's a sense of panic, and there's time dilation because you're overemphasizing the present moment. So all of a sudden, you get stuck on a thought, and it's not going to end, and you think you're going to be this way forever, and it's been 4 hours, but in reality, it's been less than 1 minute.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you can also think that your house is haunted, or your mom knows what you did, or somebody's breaking into your house, or your friends hate you, and it does some really strange things to you as an individual. Yeah, everybody's unique.
I want to start off with that right off the bat because I didn't really understand how that works. But it's funny enough, in meditation, they tell you to overemphasize the present moment.
Yeah.
But then you have a plant medicine that takes you there, and then you get paranoid. Because I guess back then I wasn't really used to it.
Well, I believe when you're doing it with that intention, you're meditating to do that specific thing, opposed to, let's say, you medicate with marijuana and then you accidentally slip into it. That can probably be a little intimidating for people that aren't used to that.
Okay.
But also with your endocannabinoid system, it's so unique to you as an individual. It also makes up the majority of your central nervous system. It's the majority of your central nervous system is made to create and take these cannabinoids, the phytocannabinoids from the plant, and create endocannabinoids inside of you. So
that's good.
It's pretty fascinating.
I know a lot of people, including my dad and my uncle, especially like 10 years ago, it was frowned upon. So they wouldn't really do it, like as far as the cream and lotions.
Mm-hmm.
But now they have a lot of shoulder pain, back pain, and there's a lot of I don't know if it's THC in there or not, but I know it has marijuana, and they put it on and it really helps them, dude.
Yeah, with topicals, there's a lot of different onset times with topicals. You got to really pay attention to what the ingredients are, because you see all types. You see lotion topicals where the ingredients might be glycerin and water. There's topicals that are petroleum jelly based, which really doesn't have any absorption rate. It basically traps moisture in, but the idea is a long absorption rate for those cannabinoids, where there's others that could really help your family out. A holistic approach, so all natural ingredients, but made with arnica, something that really has fast absorption rate. So you actually, some of these items, you notice it work pretty immediately, but with a topical, all it has to do is absorb in the skin and hit your nerve endings, and that's how that works.
They actually work pretty well. And I know a lot of people that are leaning that way, more towards tropicals, versus like doing opioids and stuff like that, because there's an opioid pandemic right now, and a lot of that stuff, though, if you read up on it, it's really bad for you.
It's terrible for
you. Yeah, it's really bad for your pills.
Where I work, we have 3 pillars there. It's re-educate, demedicate, and then destigmatize. And nobody was really there to help me, guide me along the way. I mean, even the people that I would get high with when I was younger, we didn't really know what we were doing, and we didn't have the right medicine available to us. And on top of that, it was coming across the border in the hot trunk of a car, and your THC, your tetrahydrocannabinol, was oxidizing and becoming cannabinol, becoming CBN, which is a very sleepy compound, CB night-night. And so what was happening was we'd get high, we'd medicate, and we'd open up our minds, and we would know it was medicine somehow. And then all of a sudden we'd be like, hey, man, we couldn't focus. That's where the stereotype of the stoner came from, is because we were using nighttime medicine for 30 years during the day, not knowing that there are terpenes out there that can be really uplifting or help boost your memory. The idea of indicas and sativas are going out the window. It's all about which terpenes are connected to those, which are the chemical compounds found in nature that give something its unique scent. All you got to do is smell it. Hits your olfactory glands and has an instant chemical reaction.
Really?
Yeah.
Just by smelling it?
Just by smelling it. It's fascinating.
Here's the thing with me.
It's aromatherapy.
Just like that, when I did smoke, this is like 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, it would put me asleep.
Yep.
So I just stopped doing it.
It's what was available to you.
Yeah. But my friends, I just like throughout the years they're still smoking some of them, but they do and they get super creative, bro,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like all up and like awake and enthusiastic. I'm like, hey, dude, what's up with this?
So I was mentioning the endocannabinoid
Yep.
system, and everybody's is unique to them as an individual. Like it's just as unique as they are, and I think that's really beautiful. I think it's and also just like you, like how you'll age and your opinions kind of shift and change.
Yeah.
Your endocannabinoid system will also evolve and grow, and you can kind of manipulate it. And force it to grow in different ways. So you can find new sensitivity to the marijuana, or else you can build a little bit of a tolerance so that you can take the affects the medicine easier, which can be really helpful for a lot of people. But since it's so unique to you, that also means even though it seems so communal, like there's nothing that more that we want to do than like make a circle to share it and pass it to the left hand side. We didn't realize that everybody was getting a different effect from that marijuana.
Even though it's the same marijuana.
The same marijuana. It's because it's affecting your endocannabinoid system differently. Everybody's is unique to them. So that's why it'll make you sleepy. It would be uplifting to me. This guy's really scared over here and doesn't know what to do.
Uh-huh.
And this person's going crazy. Like it has a different effect on everybody. And that's why you come to realize when it's medicinal, one, it's being grown at your elevation, it's breathing your air and drinking your water. So truly, it's like local honey curing somebody's allergies. Like the more
Nice.
local, the better. I truly wish that we could grow our own legally, because once you exchange enzymes with that plant, it's growing for you. So
And
when I was in charge of these mothers, one of the cultivation companies I was working for, we were so proud of what we were making, and it was beautiful, and we were creating lovely medicine. But in reality, I believe that Salt Lake City was growing medicine that was it was growing for me. They were medicating with my buds, but I hope that it helped them.
good. I hope it helped a lot of people. I'm sure it did, bro. I'm sure there's a lot of older people now that are leaning towards it. And my family, they come from like a Soviet Union closed-minded mentality. This is drugs. This stuff will kill you. But now my dad's like putting the lotion on, putting the cream on, using it for his own benefit.
I recommend every delivery method there is. I mean, topicals are great, but it's the stigma of it that is holding people back from really helping themselves out. There's 15 qualifying medical conditions in Utah, and the main one is pain.
Pain.
But a lot of people don't even recognize the pain that they deal with on an everyday basis, because you get used to it, and it's like we don't care about it ourselves enough to actually recognize that's something we deal with. You wake up in the morning, you're stiff, your neck hurts, your shoulder hurts. I was really afraid to get my card when I went to do it. I was even working with cultivation companies, and I thought, what am I going to tell them? What am I going to say? And I would try to get my card under other for anxiety and sleep. Neither of those are qualifying medical conditions.
Which is great for sleep, by the way.
It's amazing for sleep. But see, it's not a qualifying medical condition. However, they acknowledge it to the point where they make these gelatinous cubes, they're called here in Utah, and tinctures for them as well to truly help you sleep. CBN.
Well, I have coworkers actually at the company that your wife works at, where dude, they really have serious sleeping disorders.
Oh yeah,
but that should be a qualified.
It should
condition.
be. Nobody sleeps. You come to realize it's a terrible pandemic. Nobody sleeps here, and it's terrible. It adds to every aspect of our day. Your anxiety, your pain.
It throws off your emotions, the way you think.
Literally everything. But when you activate your endocannabinoid system correctly, that's in charge of it. Helps you sleep at night. So I'm prescribed Trazodone and Ambien, and they have the paradoxical effect on me. So basically, they don't allow me to sleep. They keep me up in a super like a buzzing state. The next day, I feel like I'm swimming through a dream, and they don't work the way that they're supposed to. However, when I ingest an edible, like something rich in CBN, that sleepy compound, I ingest it, I metabolize that while I'm sleeping, so I end up continue my rest totally uninterrupted.
Good.
And that's a miracle for some people.
That's the science of it.
It's like the only thing that helps me sleep.
The magic is, man, we're talking about this off air. When you actually think of these plants and you say "hello, ladies," or play classical music, they tend to grow healthier and better. Bro, that's literally magic. I mean, I know there's science behind it, and it's a fact. But can you go into that a little more?
Well, yeah, you come to realize just working with them and working with such a large amount of plants, how it really is this relationship between the two of you, and you start to you listen to them. And that's the best way to describe it. Once you start understanding their language and really hearing them, that's when you really connect with them. I remember there was a day that we walked in, and they weren't happy. Something happened overnight, and they were not happy. And our hearts dropped. We all like, oh no. So the first thing we did, we walked through and we just basically uplifted them. We touched everyone, every single plant we walked through, and let them know we were there. And you'd step back and you could watch over the next hour how all of those plants would just kind of start to lift up a little bit as we started giving them our attention. And, we solved the problem, figured out, what it was that we could assist them with. But just them knowing that we were there and there.
What was the problem? I mean,
in the end, I think it was a food ratio of something.
Oh,
You want its consistency. It almost doesn't. You want to feed them good water and healthy food, clean water, and balance it out, have the pH balances. But then you want consistency of that, whether it's in veg, and then you flip it over to flower stage. Once you do it, it has to be consistent. If you switch it up, it's going to throw them.
Dude, can you tell me about that one researcher where he thought about burning the flower?
Yes.
And then the flower just spiked.
Yes, I forget who it was, but there was an article. He was trying to read the stress levels of these different plants to see, like, I guess if they had feelings or would sense emotions, or try to really see what it was that they were taking from this. And so he was trying to think, what is it that I could do to really get a strong stress reaction from a plant? And he thought, well, I could light it on fire. And all of a sudden there was a huge spike in the plant's stress, not because he actually lit it on fire, but because he just thought of the action of doing
that's
it.
crazy.
And the plant did not like that. It responded
it definitely did not like that.
Not well at all to that. And it makes you think, have other thoughts towards those plants and
have positive
and be friends with them, and they'll reward you.
Well, yeah, I agree with that 100%. Just have positive thoughts in life versus negative thoughts.
In this industry, the medical marijuana program in Utah, there's only 2 religions on the planet that accept this as a medicine, and one is Rastafarianism. The second is Mormonism. However, there's a stigma amongst each other, even though the religion accepts it as a medicine because it is now legal, as long as you're doing it correctly.
Yeah.
They should be taking advantage of this, but they're still judging each other. So they're very secretive of having to do it. But as we, destigmatize this every day, even just by having this conversation, that's what we're doing. But there's a lot of people in this program that are doing it together. It's kind of like this movement that happened where the state thought there'd be 10,000 card holders, but in the end we're over 50,000 strong. And I think that's really inspiring.
Good.
I have
that
a coffee somewhere.
Yeah.
This real quick.
Where's that coffee?
Here. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, right there. There you go, bro. That's good, bro. I mean, I know people that are doing it now. I'm telling you, my dad's doing it for his shoulders because he's a barber. He cuts hair, so he has his hands up all the time.
You should send him my way. I feel like we can really help him out.
I will. I mean, he lives in California, so they don't know what they're doing. They're just handing that stuff out.
Yeah, they are, man. It's so unfortunate. I mean, I got to give respect to these states that kind of got the ball rolling. However, once they got it recreational, they didn't have to continue their education whatsoever, and they're just trying to boost these THC levels without really educating themselves and removing these minor cannabinoids. And really, your endocannabinoid system wants all of them. It doesn't just want THC. It's going to do some weird things to you if that's all you're getting. Truly, it wants something that's called the Entourage Effect, where all these cannabinoids work together in combination. They boost each other's properties synergistically. So 1 + 1 = 3. So even though, CBG is great, like for a stomach ache, good for gut health, it's even better when combined with a little bit of THC and some CBD.
Really?
Yeah. And for nighttime use, CBN's great for sleep, but you can boost that property with some CBG and CBN. But it's very specific to you as the individual. That's why it's kind of it's experimental for that individual.
That's what you told me last time we talked, right? Like to get the right plant for you, you have to experiment. You have to do a couple of them, see how the effects are. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Bro, I remember once I did it when I was younger, and my heart was beating really fast.
Yeah.
I don't know what that came from.
It could have come from that overemphasis of the present moment. All of a sudden that can happen.
I was at home,
It can be
scared.
elevating, though. You could be. It's also, it can affect blood pressure. So they try to be careful if somebody's on blood pressure medicine. That's something that our QMPs are advised to talk to people about.
But that's strange that alcohol gets a pass and marijuana doesn't. And alcohol is I feel like it's 10 times worse, bro.
Oh, yes.
You don't.
Your endocannabinoid system is an ancient master health regulator. It's this internal processing unit. It's in charge of mood, movement, sleep, digestion. It helps you process trauma. It's bone density, immune system health. It's pretty fascinating. it pulled me through the grief stages in my life when I was younger, and I didn't understand how at the time, but it was helping me demedicate. It was kind of a crapshoot because I never knew what I was going to get. And also, if you're purchasing on the black market, let's say, from your buddy down the street,
your buddy,
good friend of yours, I have this memory of looking at this big, beautiful nug from Oregon, I believe it was, but we were admiring the fuzzy crystals, how fuzzy it was. And years later, having this memory, I realized it was covered in mold. It was botrytis, and that's what happens in the black market. We end up getting the marijuana that fails their tests for whatever reason. So, and we don't know what's in it. It could be pesticides, trace pesticides when they're decarboxylated become arsenic and cyanide. So that's what you're inhaling. And, trace metals, or just, you'd never know why we're getting it, but we're getting the stuff that they will not sell.
Okay.
Isn't that terrible?
That is pretty terrible, brother.
Yeah.
So
but when you're getting it locally, it's being tested. If it fails test, they cannot put it out. And so it's clean.
So it's safer.
It's absolutely safe. And I highly recommend anybody getting an oil, like a tincture or something like that.
Yeah.
Or a cartridge, even not to purchase it online or at the grocery store. Get it medicinally. Know where it's coming from. And once it's regulated, you can trust it. But if it's unregulated, you truly don't know what's in it, and that can be really scary.
Okay.
Truly.
Got it. So it's like drinking bourbon versus ethanol.
I guess so. And I mean, some items out there, do you remember spice? It was spice was a chemical that they were spraying on certain plants, and then you smoke it like marijuana. Excuse me. And it would get you high. It was having a certain effect, but it was terrible. I think it's illegal now.
Okay. Why is marijuana classified as a hallucinogen, dude? I don't really know anyone that's smoked it.
It's a stage one. Federally, it's a stage 1 drug. So, this too is also where you start to recognize where state laws and federal laws don't really coincide and work together. But through medicinal programs such as ours, we ironically, Utah has had great success with this program because of people that are sympathetic to other people's problems. We have a lot of empathy in this state, and we really care, and we're following up with these patients in order for the program to succeed. And feel like we're kind of making a template for the rest of the country in a way, because one day I feel like it is going to open up federally. I don't want it to pass as recreationally. I truly feel like I don't know. I think of all these analogies in this industry, and with recreational use, I just see these young people out there trying to get a good head rush, and you can do that too with medicinal. But truly, when it's medicinal, we're finding it's much better, much more well-rounded.
Good. Well, my question is, it's classified as a hallucinogen, but I don't really see people.
Is it a hallucinogen?
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I think it's classified as federal class 1.
Okay, I think when I studied in school, they classified as a hallucinogen, but I never understood why, because I never heard anyone hallucinating from.
Oh, I hallucinated 100% when I first started.
Okay, but you said one time, right?
When I first started using marijuana when I was younger, it had a really strong effect on me because I think I had a lot of CB1 receptors.
Right.
So I was very sensitive to it, but I really enjoyed it as well. But to the point where I would have memories, thinking that those memories might have been dreams because of, I'd find myself in really peculiar situations, and but they were all real. And I'd have my friends, have to tell me later, no, that happened. You did that. You were walking through that crowd of people like you were swimming through them. And
sounds like a good time, bro.
I guess they were, but I was somewhat disassociated from it in the end, though. I'm so far away from that at this point. It doesn't have that effect on me at all anymore, and I haven't been high in years at this point. But I do have a very active endocannabinoid system, and I medicate every day, but it does not have the same effect on me. That's called high ECS tonality.
High ECS tonality?
Yeah, I have a really...
You build a tolerance to it in a sense.
But it's still good.
But that's mentally. What about to your body? It still probably has beneficial effects.
Well, dude, yeah, absolutely. Your endocannabinoid system is designed for homeostasis. That's internal balance regardless of your external situations, regardless of your external environment. I haven't gotten sick in a long time. And people don't really notice that.
Good.
I haven't gotten COVID this whole time during the entire scare. Congratulations.
Yeah, maybe I have, but it didn't bother me. But that comes back to my mentality. We were talking about that too, bro. I just tell myself this is not going to affect me.
Placebo. That's pretty cool.
Bro, that's something else to study.
Yeah, mind over matter, man. If you can convince yourself of that. Dude, I'm an expert in placebo because I've convinced myself that I am.
Good. That's awesome.
Pretty good?
That is pretty good.
Thanks. I've been working on that one.
But I've been studying the science of it. But I know you believe in that stuff because of looking at your house.
Placebo is fascinating. I have to tell people with certain dosing, like delivery methods, like when the inhalation technique. Well, we're a no flame state, so you can't light your marijuana on fire. And I explain to people why that's actually truly beneficial. That bothered me at first, but why is that
beneficial?
Well, it's beneficial. One, there's different activation temperatures for these cannabinoids, like CBG, cannabigerol. That's the mother cannabinoid. That's where they all come from, essentially. That starts to decarboxylate at 126 degrees to 230. There's like kind of a wide range there, but incredibly low. And after that, I mean, you have delta 9 THC at 315 degrees. The last cannabinoids decarboxylate to activate are at 428 degrees, and it's THCV and I think CBC as well, and another terpene. But after that, combustion's at 451 degrees. And between like 126 and 428, there's over 200 cannabinoids in there that we haven't even isolated yet. And these are just a handful of ones that we know of that we can actually activate. But what you do with a vaporizer, a precision vaporizer, you set this temperature low, and then you start to turn it up throughout your session. It's called terp stacking, and you end up activating every single cannabinoid and terpene that's available in your flower, and you get that entourage effect where they're all boosting each other's properties. So that's when it becomes neuroprotective. There's not going to be any paranoia. It balances itself out basically in your endocannabinoid system.
Holy shit!
But then once you vaporize it, though, I mean, here's the thing. So your lighter's flame, the flame of your lighter, that thing's 4,000 degrees.
Okay.
It's 4,000 degrees. That's incredibly hot.
That's 10 times,
When the last cannabinoid activates at 428, I mean, that's a little excessive. It's not necessary. And we don't really recognize it as being that hot, but that's why people are coughing. It's burning. It's quite excessive. So when you actually use your vaporizer correctly, which most people don't, they crank that temperature up really high because they're still expecting to see this billowing cloud of smoke from lighting it on fucking fire. I can light my shirt on fire and get the same effect, get that smoke, because at that point they're just burning plant material. So when you teach them how to use their vaporizer correctly and set it low, build that temperature up, they find in the end it's much more balanced and they get a lot more out of it. And also if they save that product once it's all done, it's called ABV, already been vaped. It's medicine. It's rich in CBN. It's still a lot of cannabinoids and THC in there to have that effect. And so you can make your own edibles with it. Or I recommend people just Google ABV or AVB, already been vaped recipes, and just the world totally opens up to it.
Why is it you get a different high when you eat it?
Because you're ingesting it. So that's why it's going to take a longer time. One, for you have to digest it first, then your liver metabolizes it, then it's going to break the blood-brain barrier. Sometimes that can take over 2 hours.
But once you hit that, I feel like it hits you harder.
It's going to hit it harder, yes. And also that's great time for people to overdo it because they don't think it's working. And so, my apologies.
Nah, don't worry.
So they don't think it's working, so they might as well take another one. And then all of a sudden,
they're gone.
It's going to hit you hard, and you're going to have a terrible, miserable experience. But a lot of people don't know about CBD being an amazing tool for you. When I first got high, my friends took me to the hospital the next day because they didn't know how to handle me. I was having this odd emotional roller coaster where I was finding the joy and whimsy in these small details, and I was finding so much humor in it. I couldn't stop laughing, and then that would scare me. And so I'd start to cry, and then back to the laughter because I just couldn't believe the emotions that were coming out of me. And then I'd get scared, and so they took me to the hospital. And the nurse asked if I'd done any drugs in the past 24 hours. I seemed totally normal at that point. I looked up at my friend's mother, who I respected quite a bit, who had taken me to the ER, and I said, yes, and I just melted. And that doctor told me that I destroyed half of my brain cells, and
Ah,
that I did this to myself. And the nurse came in and told me he was full of shit. And honestly, the guy didn't know what he was talking about. Because in the end, I was protecting my brain cells. The fact that it bonds to your fat cells, it protects your organs, protects your brain. And my short-term memory, yes, that is terrible. I
and
have
isn't it
bad
awkward though?
short-term memory.
Isn't it awkward that you're teaching doctors now about?
No, I enjoy teaching
No, no,
anybody.
no, no.
Really.
It's funny because that guy told you that you
Oh,
destroyed
yeah.
half your brain cells, and now
Maybe
you're
that's
teaching
why
them
I
like,
do it.
hey,
Yeah.
maybe that's not so
You
true.
were wrong.
You were
well,
wrong,
also
buddy.
the people that come to work for us, I mean, they're not taught about their endocannabinoid system in the medical
Medical school,
curriculum,
yeah.
and so in the end, they're drawn to it on their own. Something piques their interest, and so usually you find in this industry, it's because of a loved one or somebody brought them to it, whether they're like in the industry because they have a friend or a family member that has used it or needs it, but it's usually people's empathy in the end that brings them to it.
But that's a good place to come from, bro.
I think so.
Because you don't want to come from the money perspective. You want to come from, I want to help people, dude. I want to take this extra class and see what I could do to, instead of giving people just freaking oxycodone, maybe
Yeah.
I could give them a tropical or
Well,
a cream.
yeah, topical. I mean, or at least just point them in the right direction. Once they know how unique it is, and that's why it's experimental for them, but not to be afraid to try everything. But start low, go slow, keep a journal, and pay attention to it. But don't be afraid. There's zero toxicity. It's not going to kill you. It cannot kill you. But with that overabundance of THC, it can really scare people. It can have the opposite effect that the marijuana is actually supposed to have. But CBD is a great friend for that, and that would have saved me from a hospital trip when I was younger. I didn't know CBD, specifically when inhaled, I mean, the inhalation technique is the fastest to break that blood-brain barrier. So if you inhale CBD, it's basically, cannabidiol is going to essentially balance out the overabundance of THC and leave you with that entourage effect, so you're not feeling that paranoia or fear. It's
Nice.
basically a relief of all of that. So if people are feeling uncomfortably high, then that's going to help them, and that would have saved me from a scary experience. But I wouldn't be able to share that story with you today.
Nice. Couple more questions, brother.
Please.
Like where did weed come from, bro? Do people even know? Like, 'cause it's all over the world now.
Where did weed come from?
Apparently, like, it's like a smart plant because it helps humans. That's what I've heard. The theory and the fact that the point is for it to survive and thrive, so people make more and more of it.
Well, we're finding this seems to be the first plant that we ever cultivated or immigrated with. Like, we actually took it with us, and it's the further it's just we're finding it further and further back in history all the time. But
Really?
the more research that you do, it almost looks like we co-evolved with each other. The fact that they have these phytocannabinoids that they produce, and I mean, we produce cannabinoids too, but we have a whole system for this, and the fact that we even have this system is kind of mind-boggling. And it truly looks like we evolved together, but chances are we were eating animals that were eating it, and that's where this developed. But the question that keeps me up at night, or why do 600 million year old sea squirts have rudimentary endocannabinoid systems? They're little corals that'll squirt, and they have a rudimentary endocannabinoid system, and that they were evolving long before the plant ever existed. These are the questions that keep me up at night.
Yeah. Is there like a specific place where it actually came from, like Afghanistan, South America? Do they really know? Like Europe?
Oh boy, I guess that can be pinpointed. That's not where my specialty is. I kind of got a broad knowledge of this.
Yeah.
But it goes back just as far as we do.
Yeah, so it goes back thousands of years.
More so. And I mean, at one point we were eating it, using it for the amino acid. It was a crop. We were using it for food and fibers, and it wasn't even for the flower. I mean, we used it as medicine in different forms, but it was one of the 5 medicinal medicines or one of the 5 medicinal herbs.
And it's good for your skin too, right?
Oh, it's good for everything. I mean, literally, it's good for everything, but you got to know how to use it correctly, and you got to know what you're using. And once you do that, then it opens up the world for you.
Okay.
But learn about terpenes, those cannabinoids, and which ones you're drawn to, and which ones that work for you. But also, I mean, there's that paradoxical effect. What works for you isn't necessarily going to work for another person. Some beta-caryophyllene is amazing as a terpene, and it should be, very calming and anti-inflammatory. But some people have that paradoxical effect where it makes them spicy and a little angry, and they can check that packaging and see, like, let me see what's on there, and like, caryophyllene.
Nice. That reminds me of studying consciousness, bro.
The terpenes are fascinating, man. They're coming to find that it's the combination of terpenes and cannabinoids where the miracles are happening, but we can't pinpoint it scientifically because we're all so unique when it comes to your endocannabinoid system. You have to figure it out for yourself, and nobody can tell you that you're wrong.
That's awesome.
But you got to know yourself.
So whatever your flavor is.
Whatever your flavor is, but since your endocannabinoid system evolves, just because beta-caryophyllene used to make you spicy and you avoided it for a year or so, you go back to it again. Maybe now's the time your body wants some caryophyllene, So I wish in Utah that we could smell it before we purchased it, because truly, if it smells good to you, it's your body telling you that's your medicine, and you can smell another strain with a dominant terpene that is not appealing to you in that moment, but other people really enjoy it. That's your body telling you, that's really not the one for you right then and there.
So the key is to try to smell it.
If you can, and that's why the key right now is to kind of purchase in smaller amounts, to try to kind of experiment and see what's working, because a guy like me, I like it all. But when you are working with people, like, I know how the marijuana affects me, but to see people that need it for different reasons, to see it really help them, that's inspiring, And my mom's never been more proud of me because I've finally stuck to something. But I'm truly helping people, and I feel that every day. And even though I'm not in cultivation anymore, I feel like I'm cultivating a community, and it's growing really strong. And I'm really proud of that.
Good. I'm proud of you too, bro. I really am. And you sound very enthusiastic about it.
I get pretty
honestly, about it. At one point I used to frown upon it, but when I saw more and more people like you, dude, and you're like, hey, this is for medicinal purposes.
When used correctly.
Yeah, when used correctly. And I see my dad that really does need it, and I don't want him to be on opioids. So that stuff will rot you up from the inside out.
I feel like I can help him out quite a bit. I mean, there's some non-psychoactive items out there in the market too that are medicinal, but you don't need your card to get it. But they're regulated, so they're safe.
Yeah.
And with no THC, my company can offer those to you. And so you can use them all day long, or they can help you sleep. But you can utilize this medicine without the THC. You don't have to have the psychoactive effects.
Okay.
That's kind of a nice side effect, which I enjoy quite a bit.
And on the last note, I always ask people this question. Last question. What do you think people could do just to better themselves, bro?
Feed their endocannabinoid system.
Nice.
With CBD, CBG, CBN, CBC, THC, THCV. There are so many more out there
also
than
helps
just
with
Delta
depression.
9. Absolutely, 100%. When
wow,
used correctly,
that's very tough. I like it.
Uplifting terpenes like limonene.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Because I feel like there's people that take a lot of like medications, and they're just still stuck in bed, bro. If they do some of the stuff that you told them correctly,
absolutely, because dude, if you do it incorrect, I mean, you can have an edible the night before, it help you sleep all night long. You don't wake up, you sleep like you've never slept before, but you wake up with a lethargy and still a grogginess. You're still metabolizing the THC from the previous night, so that CBD kind of lifts the fog. So that's when you're manipulating your endocannabinoid system to really work for you. So I don't mind taking the real heavy dose at the end of the night, because I know the next day I can lift that fog, and that's once I start taking charge to utilize and activate that processing unit. So feed it correctly. Feed your endocannabinoid system.
That's awesome, dude. I love it. Thanks so much for jumping on my podcast.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate it. What website should they go to over here?
Dude, UtahMarijuana.org. That's a great place to go. Discover Marijuana on YouTube. That's
Okay.
If you want to educate yourself, please go to Discover Marijuana on YouTube and subscribe there. It's just fully loaded with everything we learn, we share on that platform. So I highly recommend checking it out.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.